Say that I starved, that I was lost and weary, but that I was not broken. Everett Ruess, 1934. In the winter of 1934, a young man vanished into the desert and never came back. He left behind no body, no bones, just a few carved words in stone and 1,000 questions echoing across the Utah canyons. His name was Everett Ruess, which I might be pronouncing that wrong. And depending on who you ask, he was either a wandering artist, a victim of murder, or a man who willingly stepped off the edge of the map. This is the story of a disappearance wrapped in poetry, obsession, and the beautiful beauty of the American frontier. A mystery that feels less like a case file and more like a ghost story. Everett was born in 1914 in LA, the second child of a devout, intellectual family. From an early age, he stood out, not just for his curiosity, but for his intense love of solitude and wilderness. He devoured books, sketched landscapes, and studied classical literature before most kids learned their multiplication tables. By his mid-teens, Everett wasn't just dreaming of adventure, he was living it. At just 16, he began exploring the Sierra Nevada and the California coast alone. He wrote home constantly, his letters filled with philosophical musings and romantic visions of nature. When the day is done and the clouds are dark with mystery, I am most content. He saw the world as something to be absorbed, not observed. By the early 1930s, Everett had shifted his sights east toward the stark, savage landscape of the Colorado Plateau. The red rock canyons of Arizona and Utah called to him, and he answered. In 1931, Everett left civilization behind and wandered deep into the desert with only 2 burros, an art satchel, and his notebooks. He became a familiar sight in remote Navajo and Mormon settlements, sometimes barefoot, often broke, but always smiling, always polite, and always alone. He camped beneath archways and cliff walls, carving block prints of the landscapes and trading sketches for food. He read Nietzsche by firelight. I'm assuming that's a book. He etched his name, sometimes his real one, sometimes NEMO, Latin for no one, into canyon walls. I shall always be alone, wanderer of the wilderness. I shall never have a friend who means as much to me as a trail followed by a mountain stream. By late 1934, Everett was 20 years old and on the move again. He had written to his parents from Escalante, Utah, in November. His last letter, dated November 11th, said he was heading into the Escalante canyons for a few weeks, maybe a month. He was excited. He felt at peace. Then he vanished. Weeks passed, then months. No new letters arrived. By early 1935, his parents were panicking. His brother Waldo launched a search expedition into the canyons. What they found only deepened the mystery. Everett's 2 burros were discovered tied up in a box canyon called Davis Gulch. There was no sign of a struggle, and his gear was mostly intact. But Everett himself was gone. They searched the gulch, the nearby Colorado River, slot canyons, hidden springs, and found nothing. Even more chilling was a discovery carved into the canyon wall near where his camp had been. NEMO 1934. It was his mark. One final echo. No body, no bones, no blood. Just silence. Searchers described the site as undisturbed. His bedding and cookware remained at the camp. A small cache of supplies was buried under a stone cairn. The burrows had water, food, and shade, suggesting he had no intention of abandoning them. The terrain made the search brutal. The Escalante region is a labyrinth of slick rock, box canyons, and sandstone shelves, places where a body could vanish into crevices just a foot wide. Heat warped the air during the day. Frost hit at night. One rescuer later wrote in a private letter that it felt like the desert was erasing him on purpose. Local Navajo families told stories of a young white man seen wandering alone in the months prior, speaking softly to animals and sketching by moonlight. Some claimed he had spoken about, quote, going where no one could follow. Others suggested something more supernatural. One searcher, Escalante Sheriff H.L. Jones, later said, "It was like he walked into the rock itself. There wasn't a single boot print after a point. Not one." In the years that followed, Everett's disappearance became legend. But legends spawned theories, and Everett's case had plenty. Theory number 1, the accidental death theory. Some believe he died in a fall, maybe slipped into a canyon crack, or was swept away in a flash flood. The terrain around Davis Gulch is brutal and deceptive. One wrong step could send a body into a crevice never seen again. Canyons in that region twist back on themselves, hiding danger in shadowed corners. But critics ask, why were his burrows tied up? Why did he leave without his journal or camera? If he intended only a short walk, why was he never seen again? Some desert explorers believe he may have crawled into a shaded rock shelter and died of heat stroke or dehydration. His bones, they say, could still be there, hidden in plain sight, buried under sand and stone. Theory number 2, murder theory. Another theory centers on foul play. A few residents in Escalante were known to be hostile towards outsiders. Everett was idealistic, naive, and sometimes stubborn, traits that don't always mix well with small-town suspicion. Rumors circulated that he had gold coins or valuable gear. Some speculated that a local ranch hand, whose name was never publicly revealed, may have encountered Everett near the river and killed him in a robbery. Another rumor claimed he was buried in an unmarked grave on a nearby homestead. In 1971, an old Navajo man claimed he saw a white man murdered in the area decades earlier. The location? Near Davis Gulch, but no body ever turned up, and the man's story was never confirmed. Journalist David Roberts once interviewed locals who said flatly, he got killed. People know who did it, they just don't talk about it. Theory number 3, the cult theory. Ooh. Here's where things get stranger. A local frontier myth speaks of a group living beneath the desert, a lost people who believed the canyons were spiritual gateways. A few off-grid communes operated in the Escalante area well into the 1940s. Some practiced rituals tied to Navajo and Paiute myths. Others leaned into mysticism and isolation. Could Everett have joined them? Well, maybe. He wrote in one of his final letters, "I have always been unsatisfied with life as most people live it. I must pack up and move again toward the unknown." Some researchers believe he willingly disappeared, cut ties, changed names, and walked into a new life under new beliefs. Others whispered darker ideas, that he was taken into something or by something he never understood. A strange fragment of local lore speaks of a sandstone cave near Navajo Mountain filled with sky-colored smoke, a chanting at twilight. Hikers claim to have seen lights deep in the gulch, flickering long after sunset. Stories like these might be just that. Stories. But they speak into something real. Everett's absence feels intentional, even designed. In 2009, headlines exploded. Everett Ruess's remains found. An old burial near Comb Ridge had been uncovered by a local Navajo man. The skeleton matched Everett's age, and early DNA results seemed to confirm it. Buried with dental work, typical of the 1930s, and located in an area he was known to have passed through, the discovery felt final. For a moment, it looked like the mystery was over. But it wasn't. Further testing, commissioned by Everett's surviving relatives, contradicted the initial results. The DNA didn't match. The body wasn't Everett, just another young man swallowed by the desert. The family was disappointed, but not surprised. They'd been down this road before. For decades, hikers, journalists, and amateur sleuths had sent them letters claiming they've solved the case, but there was never proof. Waldo Ruess, Everett's older brother, summed it up best in 1998 interview. "I've come to believe that Everett didn't die. He just left." Everett Ruess isn't just a missing person anymore. He became something else, an icon for wanderers, idealists, and those who long to vanish. His story is often compared to Christopher McCandless, another young soul who went into the wild and never came back. But Everett's case is stranger, deeper, less explainable. There's no wrecked van, no camera roll, no remains, just a name and the wind. Today, hikers still find NEMO carved into hidden places along the Escalante. No one knows how many were left by Everett himself, or how many were carved in tribute, but the legend is alive. Some locals claim to have seen him long after his disappearance, older, bearded, cloaked in silence. And one claimed he watched a man disappear into a canyon wall that wasn't there a moment before. Others believe he's still out there, somewhere. Or maybe he became part of the desert itself. A spirit moving between red stone shadows and whispering winds. Do you think I don't know I'm absurd? But I do it anyway. Everett didn't leave a suicide note. He didn't leave a trail of blood. He didn't even leave fear behind. What he left was a question. A young man went into the desert to lose himself, and in doing so, became impossible to forget. When we think back on stuff like this, I feel like there's a lot of people that just kind of go into the wilderness and that's it, they're there. And which is fine. In this case, I feel like he went into the wilderness expecting one outcome and got another. Being that there's a lot of disappearances that happen in canyons and national forests and state forests, etc., it wouldn't be crazy to think that he did actually just straight up vanish. especially since we covered that in the Bennington Triangle series, where 5 people vanished between 1945 and 1950. So that'll end today's episode. As always, sources are in the description and will be coming up in the credits. And thank you for watching.
We held on tight, but it felt so long. Tell me, where did we go wrong?